Well, it is September 2024, and this is the last ever month for the Oakland A's.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'll explain why I was just looking at my hands in a second. Hello, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about your Oakland A's and their final year and now their final month in Oakland. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. If you want to follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully with Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And if you follow us every single day, make sure to put that little banner if you use the social media and have it say Everyday A's. And today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at FanDuelNow through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 to get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FANDUEL.COM to get started. I don't want anyone to say that I don't bleed for the Locked On Podcast Network. Here's the deal. I shaved my face just before this particular episode, and I nicked it, and it's bleeding right there. So I am going to eventually stop this down, but I'm going to keep the momentum going here and right now. Yeah, it is now. We'll talk about the game, the walk-off win by the Rangers. We'll talk about some things, but it's September. It's September of 2024. We've been kicking this can down the road for generations, and it's now come to pass. This is the last month that the A's will be playing in Oakland. This is the last time we can turn the calendar ever and say who's playing at the Oakland Coliseum today, who's playing Major League Baseball at the Coliseum today. All right, maybe never say never, but and who knows, maybe there's some bizarre plot twist where some team buys the A's and they keep them in Oakland and they say, oh, we'll pay for a new stadium. But I don't really see that happening. This has been slowly bleeding, like this cut I have on my cheek. And it's a tough feeling because for years there's been a sense of, well, will they move? Will they do? You saw the video I did a few weeks ago. Will they go to Fremont? Will they go to San Jose? Will they go to, outside of Laney College? Will they go to Jack London Square? Will they build it in the Coliseum parking lot? Will they have it over by the docks? And the fact of the matter is, it looks like the answer is none of the above. And the great tradition of the A's in Oakland is wrapping up right now. You know, this is different than seeing a show that you love wrap up. You know, like one of my favorite shows is Better Call Saul. And when I finished watching Better Call Saul, there was almost like an emptiness in my heart because I had devoted so much emotion to watching that show, or the final Cheers, or the final MASH, or the final 6 Feet Under. By the way, if you ever watch a show, there's a great last episode, 6 Feet Under. It's definitely one of them. But this is like a self-inflicted wound like that. This is something that could have been avoided. This is like a divorce, or this is like a friend leaving on not the best terms. And you knew this day was coming. And it's all kind of oddly coming back in a giant rush. I've read a whole lot of books about the history of the A's, dating back to the days of Connie Mack. But the Oakland years have been fascinating with some of the great characters you'll ever see in the history of baseball. And here's the deal. When you think about some teams and how long, the traditional locations of teams that have moved around. The Dodgers spent more time in Brooklyn and Los Angeles. Eventually, those will even out. Same with the New York Giants and San Francisco Giants. The fact of the matter is the A's have spent longer in Oakland than anywhere else. Longer than Philadelphia, a hell of a lot longer than Kansas City. There are deep roots in Oakland. Deep roots of happiness, deep roots of glory, deep roots of great memories, deep roots of championships, deep roots of being there when the team sucks and still showing a sense of devotion to them. And throughout their history, with the exception of the Haas years, A's fans have received a forearm shiver to the face from ownership. Yes, even Finley, who delivered 3 straight World Series titles, the only team not called the New York Yankees to win 3 straight titles. But Finley did all sorts of nasty things. And if you read about it, he was not popular with the fans, even when he was delivering World Series titles, because he kept getting in the way. He couldn't just let well enough alone. If he had just left well enough alone, that team would have stayed together for a generation. Oh, and by the way, free agency is basically what torpedoed the team. And free agency came about because he was trying to nickel and dime Catfish Hunter. And when an arbitrator sites ruled that Finley had violated his contract and Catfish Hunter became a free agent, the free agent feeding frenzy over Catfish Hunter opened the eyes of players to think, oh, I want some of that. The free agency that basically ripped apart the A's of that time could have been prevented if Finley wasn't so cheap, or he could have paid the players. But anyway, it's been a strange time. The A's have always been an unusual franchise. I remember being fascinated by them as a kid, because even that name, the A's, what does that mean? The uniforms just blew me away. I loved, as a kid, wearing my Kelly Green A's uniform because I just felt it looked cool. It looked so different. Everything about the A's in Oakland has just felt different from other teams. The name, the uniform, its history, its quirkiness. There's always been something about the A's that has been a little bit off. Kind of like a Coen Brothers movie. Something a little different. And being an A's fan, and you all listen to me, assuming you're A's fans, it's a different kind of fandom. It's a fandom of which there are great moments. It's a fandom of which you have moments of, great peaks and you have great valleys. But there's also a sense of, I root for the quirky team. I root for the unusual team. I root for the team in the strange stadium with the weird uniforms and the bizarre history. That's the team you root for. And it has a taste and a flavor of the East Bay. And it's something we're sorely going to miss. And I want to talk about that connection and how eventually clinging to a semblance of A's fandom will be a badge of honor. Let's hear from our friends over at FanDuel. You've heard us talk about FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. We'll have something a little different for you right now. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. Say that 3 times fast. All you'll need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks so much for making Locked On A's your first listen today. For your second listen to more of me. I'm the host of the Locked On MLB podcast. I'm here to provide you a national perspective with my point of view, sometimes my humor, sometimes my silliness, sometimes my passion. I got it all for you. I'm going to help you cover the Major League Baseball playoffs through the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with me, your pal Sully. I've it covered every single day at Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Rooted in Oakland. That's the sort of thing I want all of you to buy. To get some sort of paraphernalia, some sort of jersey that has the Oakland name on it. Because that's going to be a kind of a cool badge of honor as a fan. Now, one of the things that I kind of felt that I feel the Vegas, I can't make this any clearer. I've said it many times. I think Vegas is a terrible spot for a team like the A's. I actually don't think it's a good spot for expansion. I think there are two very obvious spots for expansion, and maybe three. Nashville, the biggest no-brainer ever. I think Portland could certainly do it. Perhaps Salt Lake City. I know there's a lot of sentiment to have a new team in Montreal, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. I personally would love to see that, but I wonder how much more of that is sentimentality than practicality. But Nashville, Portland, and Salt Lake City are three very viable locations, and I think somewhere in North Carolina also. I think probably Charlotte, but Raleigh or someplace like that. Maybe Durham. But Vegas, I've always felt, was a rotten location. I think the size of the city and the size of the media market and the fact that fans, baseball needs to have deep-rooted fandom. And I don't think you're going to get that at a transplanted city where most people are Dodger fans. And I also just think that there's too much entertainment. And if they are going to have a team, it should be, they want an expansion team. They don't want to have the leftovers from Oakland. But eventually, they're going to go to Sacramento. And I've made my prediction. I'm not the only one to make this prediction. I think they're going to stay in Sacramento. And what I hope happens is that if the A's do indeed stay in Sacramento, which I think will happen, I hope that they adapt to the character of Sacramento. I hope they adapt to the identity of Sacramento. And there is a quirkiness to Sacramento. There's a fun ladybird quirkiness to that city that I've always enjoyed any time I've gone there. It's hot as hell. There's not, it ain't a beach town. But I've been to Sacramento many times in my life, and there is an Old West feel to it. It's clearly a city that sprang up during the gold rush. It feels more like an Arizona city or a New Mexico city. But maybe that Old West quality, that, those saloon door qualities that Old Sac certainly has, could rub off on the A's. And maybe some of that quirky personality of Oakland can survive in Sacramento. Is this Stockholm Syndrome? Maybe. But they're moving, so we have to make lemonade. But eventually, wear those Oakland shirts. Wear the things that specifically mention Oakland, because there is so much character and such a strange journey that Oakland's very existence of having a Major League Baseball team and two dynasties. And if only they had won one of those years in the early 2000s, because you could have made the case that they would have had three dynasties. But at least they got a Brad Pitt film made about them. If you walk around with your A's jersey, they may think you're from Sacramento eventually. Proudly show the Oakland one. Proudly show that you rooted for them when they were weird and cool and unusual and on a shoestring. It's kind of like showing that you had a band shirt before they had a top 40 hit, or you liked a filmmaker before they had their big blockbuster. I like their earlier films. But that quality from the A's will have a certain coolness to them. Embrace it. Don't start rooting for, don't lose that. You saw it a lot when I lived in New York for many, many years, and I would see a lot of people wearing the Brooklyn Dodgers jersey. I think some of that came from there was a sense of coolness of Brooklyn. But when you see a team that doesn't exist anymore, and a location at least that doesn't exist anymore, when you see someone wearing that jersey, you get a nod of, okay, you stayed with a team that may have broken your heart, but you're at least holding on to some of that positivity, some of that identity. Whenever I see someone wearing a Hartford Whalers shirt, I'm a native of Connecticut, and I see that, I'll just nod my head and go like, okay, cool. You have a connection to a team that's no longer there. It's a phantom now, but you're keeping that flame alive. I saw some of the Quebec Nordiques jersey, thought the same thing, or a Houston Oilers shirt, or anytime I see someone representing the Montreal Expos, probably the coolest franchise that doesn't exist anymore. And anytime you see an Expos hat or an Expos shirt, I just sort of give a little salute and say, Viva les Expos. The Expos, by the way, were just as quirky and weird as the A's. The one thing they didn't have were the World Series titles. They had the rug pulled out from them in 1994. If the A's had ever played the Expos in the World Series, I don't know, the strange character of both of those franchises would have overflowed. And by the way, in 1991, the A's lost the ALCS and the Expos lost the NLCS. We were that close to having a Montreal-Oakland World Series. Man, I would have loved to see that, if for no other reason than to see the hats and uniforms. But keep the quirkiness alive. Keep being rooted in Oakland, because after this month, they will be like the Montreal Expos, and your Oakland jersey will be one that baseball fans with a sense of history and a sense of, for the lack of a better word, appreciation of the past will be able to nod and go like, Viva les Oakland A's. You know what Game Time is? It's the best place to get tickets for all your live events. And now Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks, which makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff and shows you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So check out Seat Views. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Check out the lowest price guaranteed. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference, and you'll have the Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. All right, this is a reminder that Locked On MLB is the other show you should be listening to. I'm the host of that too, and I'm getting you prepared for the Fall Classic. I've got it covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. All right, let's take a quick peek at what happened today. It was a frustrating game. I mean, when Jonah Heim hit the 2-run home run in the second inning, I thought to myself, okay, this doesn't look like our day. But then Butler homered, and then Brent Rooker got the RBI double, and suddenly the game was tied. By the way, Rooker is now up to 91 RBI, and Butler now has 20 homers. Who would have thought that? And Estes pitched okay. I mean, he let up the home run, but other than that, he struck out 7, and he didn't walk anybody. And, of course, it's a tie game going into the 9th. And Ferguson, he didn't have it. He didn't have it. When the ball grounder went towards the middle for a second, for a second, I thought it was going to be one of those situations where it goes right to second base where the shortstop would be there, step on second, throw over to first for a double play. No, it's not what happened. It's the exact opposite of what happened. Tavares' single went up the middle, and the A's didn't get that big rally. They got scattered those 2 runs, but they couldn't get anything big going. Bradford pitched pretty well. He struck out 8, and he walked none. So here we go. We got a rubber game. And so we're going to see. That's what I've been saying. You got to win more than you lose. And the Angels won. They had to come from behind victory against Seattle. So Miller is pitching for Seattle. Dana is making his big league debut tomorrow. The Rangers are starting Pennington, and the A's are starting Spence. So we're going to see what happens. And also just a quick thing, the Astros and the the Astros and the Royals are playing, and Blanco is starting, which means he's going to throw 7 innings of no-hit ball and be relieved. There you go. All right, well, here we go. The A's lost a tough one, a walk-off win, but they'll have Mason Miller available, so get that lead early. Jump all over Pennington. Jump all over Walter Pennington, who this year has made 0 starts. So he is, by the way, Walter Pennington is a graduate of the Colorado School of Mines, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, is my cousin Don's alma mater. So I'll have to contact my cousin Don to see if he has great pride in Walter Pennington from the Colorado School of Mines, which is, as we know, a baseball powerhouse. Well, folks, I'm representing the also-rans of the 1981 League Championship Series right now with my Expos t-shirt and my A's jacket and a cut on my face. So follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever it's called now. And I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Being a little sentimental as we're now counting down the final months and hoping that they win a couple of games here as there's only a few more weeks left. This has been Locked On A's. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.